ITP 263, Task 7, Assignment 3, Child Negligence.
Good morning, Ray. I'm so glad you could come in this morning for the interview. As administrator of this school, I'm interested in your perspective on child abuse and neglect. I see in your resume here that you took a course in college on this subject. Could you share some of your views on this topic with me this morning?
So yes, I have taken child abuse classes before. I think that it's very important to know about those and the different signs that indicate that the child is being abused. Really, that information is very vital to me. And I've used it very much when I've been working in the schools and as I watch children grow. It's hard sometimes to judge if something is really wrong with the child. Maybe they are just poor and they have dirty clothes, or their hair is not maintained, messed up. Maybe dirty shoes or socks. There's just a lot of physical things that you can see that need to be improved if the child is being abused.
Good. Well, let's talk about some of those early clues or things that we can be looking for in the classroom. As a teacher in the classroom, could you tell me just one or two signs that you would find for emotional neglect, for instance? What were some things you might be looking for as a teacher?
Maybe just judging by the child's face, if they smile loud or they just have language. Really, you need to help those kids develop and grow because they need to become comfortable with you so that they can improve in the future.
What are some of the physical cues that you might look for? For instance, sucking their thumb, some of those kind of things. What might you be watching for?
Again, maybe like judging what kind of shoes the kids have if they're dirty, or maybe just how they act if they're antsy or walking around. And then once you see those, you really again need to make sure that the child is comfortable with you. Work with them, and if they seem to have just an unstable emotional state,
Good.
you really need to.
I know that I've had situations in my classroom when I was teaching where I found a child was withdrawn from their peers. Oftentimes I would find them over by themselves at their desks, chewing on their fingernails. What kind of things do you think you could do then to cue me as the administrator that that's happening? What would you do if you saw those types of behavior in your classroom?
Judging by if the child is all alone, I would definitely approach them and start to communicate and discuss with them about what's going on. Why aren't you with the other kids? Like, you look sad. Can I help you? Just make sure that they feel comfortable, that they want to approach you. And then maybe from there, they feel more open to socialize.
I've thought about this as a child growing up deaf. Did you ever feel isolated? Did you have people watching you thinking perhaps you were neglected? It seems like that could be one of the areas that would show up in some of our children who perhaps are having a difficulty communicating with others in their environment. How do you feel about that?
So it's true that it can be kind of hard for deaf students and hearing students to mingle. I mean, from my experience being deaf, I know that communication with other students, with sign, it was nice when there were other students who were able to sign with me and communicate, but it is completely possible for that to happen.
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to also talk about some of the areas of physical neglect. And I know that you talked about that in your class. For instance, what would be some of the physical indicators for you if a child came to school consistently poorly dressed, that kind of thing? What other indicators would you look for of physical neglect or abuse from the home?
It's a tough one. I mean, physical abuse and neglect that I would most likely notice would definitely be the clothes. I mean, maybe going up to them and seeing how, like, an adult might steer them, like their parents would. Like, maybe their parents are suffering with alcoholism, or they're abusive. And those physical traits will show, and you need to make sure that you help the student so that their future can be bright. I mean, socializing with them, helping them help themselves, and having that advice and counseling to give them. I think is very important.
What about conferencing with the parents? How do you feel you could approach that? If you saw, for instance, a child who came to school hungry, or you began to detect malnourishment, a child that didn't have energy to participate, those kind of things, how do you feel you could approach that in your classroom?
Well, when I've noticed that children are being ignored, or their eyes are red, they just don't have the strength, that they're walking like they just have no energy. It's true, and you need to go see and ask them what's going on at home. Are you receiving enough sleep? Maybe the parents just don't really care. They neglect the child. And again, with those parents, you maybe need to take the time to give them food or fruit or something, vegetables and fruit. Like, they need to have a healthy diet so that they will be able to sustain themselves throughout the day.
Well, that sounds very helpful. I know that our school does have a reduced meal program, the cost for hot meals here on, at the facility. Perhaps one thing you could also suggest to them is that they look into getting their child on a program at the school. There's a variety of things that I feel I can do as an administrator in this school and as a teacher to help a child have a positive school experience. And so I was just hoping today that we would have a chance to just see how well we can do in our facility to facilitate the best possible learning environment. I was also thinking about how we might talk to parents and bring them into our work with the child. Can you think of other things that you could possibly do as the teacher in regards to physical or emotional neglect from the home?
Yeah, no, you can definitely help a student out, especially if they're without food or they're worried about, are they going to go home and have any food? I mean, give the parents opportunity to provide, give them programs, and work with them to help them care for their child. Because as a parent, it is your duty to help, work, and provide for that student, and to overall help them, but to help them become more financially stable, I think would be a good start. Other parents I know have drug abuse, and they just throw away their money instead of buying food. So I believe that in those cases, it's not a healthy environment for the student, and they should not be living in that kind of situation. So if you need to, you may need to inform the parents that this drug abuse must stop in order for them to continue having their student at home. This is their student's life and it needs to be
Right.
successful.
You know, you're right, Ray. It seems to me that a lot of the children that we find that have gone through physical or emotional neglect come from single-parent families or perhaps low-income families. But I've also found out over the years of working with children that oftentimes neglect can occur in homes where there are both parents. Perhaps they're both working. There's other kinds of neglect, and I think that we shouldn't just stereotype and think that it's just going to be the low income or those who seem to be in poverty conditions. I have detected neglect in the other types of environments also. What type of emotional neglect do you think could come about in a family situation where both parents, for instance, are working and are out of the home?
Well, I understand that if both parents have to work and do leave the child alone on their own, that child then becomes responsible for themselves. And really, the parent should be there and come home and arrive on time so that they are able to feed and care for their child. I don't know, there's many different steps that people can take to become more aware and to be a better parent.
Right. I know that I have dealt with parents in the past who are workaholics, and they assume because they are caring for the physical needs of the child that the emotional needs are also being met. And I think as teachers, we need to constantly be able to watch for neglect in the emotional arena for children who may have all the physical needs met, but emotionally are starved for affection and attention and time giving from their caretakers.
Very true, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's so true because also with parents who are always come and go and just leave the kid on their own, that's not fair to them. I mean, you need to be there, to be at home, to interact with them, and to watch them grow, and to mingle and encourage them to have friends. That's perfectly fine. But to just leave your child at home alone, I find it to be very sad and boring for the child and scary. I mean, all night.
Mm-hmm. Well, I really appreciate, Ray, what appears to me that you have looked at the whole gamut of child abuse and neglect. And I think that it will be good if we do indeed offer you a position on our staff, that you could come to us with some good qualifications that would help us in detecting these things in the classroom. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me today. I think it's been profitable for both of us, and I do look forward to spending more time with you in the future.
Thank you so much.
And what I'll be doing is I will be going through some more resumes, and I'll be getting in touch with you, I would say in the next couple of days. Will you be in the area so I can contact you?
Oh, yes, most definitely.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate, again, as I said, that you came in today and took the time to talk with me. Thank you.